Welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, the fourth in our episodes, Extracting Information from the Curious Lore of Precious Stones by Kunz. Those who've listened to the previous episodes may find that I got my notes out of order. Carbuncles, generally garnets. The carbuncle was recommended as a heart stimulant. Indeed, so powerful was its action that the wearers were rendered angry and passionate and were warned to be on their guard against attacks of apoplexy. In mythical fancies too, the stone played a part, for dragon's eyes were said to be carbuncles. Rumphius states that in 1687 he was told by a chirurgeon that the latter had seen in the possession of one of the rulers of the island of Ambion a carbuncle said to have been brought by a serpent. The story ran that this ruler, when a child, had been placed by his mother in a hammock attached to two branches of a tree. While there, a serpent crept upon him and dropped a stone on his body. In gratitude for this gift, the parents of the child fed and cared for the serpent, and the stone is described as having been of a warm yellow hue, verging on red. It shone so brightly at night that a room could be illuminated by it. It eventually passed into the possession of the king of Siam. The well-formed image of a lion, if engraved on a garnet, will protect and preserve the honours and health, will cure the wearer of all diseases, bring him honour, and guard him from all perils while travelling. So garnets are of particular use to House McCurray. Carnelian. The wearing of carnelians is recommended by the Lapidario of Alfonso X to those who have a weak voice or are timid of speech, for the warm-coloured stone will give them the courage they lack, so that they speak boldly and well. This is in accord with the general belief in the stimulating and animating effects produced by red stones. On a carnelian is engraved in Arabic characters a prayer to keep away the evil eye, and to deliver the wearer from all the tricks of the devil and from the envious. Throughout all the East, people are afraid of the envious. They believe that if you envy a person for his health or his wealth or any good thing he may have, he will lose it in a short time, and it is the devil who incites envy in some people against others. So it is supposed that by wearing this stone bearing the proper prayer against the envious, their envy will cease to do you harm. An Armenian writer of the 17th century reports that in India, the lal or balas ruby, if powdered and taken in a potion, was believed to banish all dark forebodings and excite joyous emotions. To the carnelian was attributed a virtue somewhat analogous to that described the turquoise, as anyone wearing a carnelian was proof against injury from falling houses or walls. The writer emphasizes this by stating that no man who wore a carnelian was ever found in a collapsed house or beneath a fallen wall. Because of the cooling and calming effect exercised by the carnelian upon the blood, if worn on the neck or finger, it was believed to still the angry passions. A man with a sword in his hand on a carnelian preserves the place where it may be from lightning and tempest, and guards the wearer from vices and enchantments. A man richly dressed, and with a beautiful object in his hand engraved on a carnelian, checks the flow of blood and confers honours. In terms of shape and material bonuses, I'd suggest the garnet and the carnelian, because it's obviously a related stone. Aids navigation 2, strengthens the body and mind 2, vigour 2, bonds of commitment 3, and repel insects 4. Chalcedony. An ingenious, though far-fetched, explanation of the power attributed to chalcedony of driving away phantoms and visions of the night is supplied by Ganelli, writing in 1702. For him, the source of this asserted power was to be found in what has been erroneously termed the alkaline quality of the stone. This dissipated the evil humours of the eye, thus removing the diseased condition of the organ, which caused the apparitions to be seen. However absurd this explanation may be, it nevertheless shows that the author put little faith in visible ghosts. I'd recommend that chalcedony has power against ghosts of 5. Chrysolite. The serpent isle in the Red Sea was stated by Agatharcides to be the source whence came the topaz. Chrysolite. Here, by the mandate of Egyptian kings, the inhabitants collected specimens of the stone and delivered them to the gem cutters for polishing. These simple details are elaborated in Diodorus Siculus into the legend that the island was guarded by jealous watchers who had orders to put to death any unauthorized persons who approached it. Even those who had the right to seek the gem could not see the chrysolite in daytime. Only after nightfall was it revealed by its radiance. The seekers then marked well the spot and were able to find the stone in the following day. From this Egyptian source, and possibly others exploited by the Egyptians, have come the finest chrysolites, peridots or olivines, the most magnificent examples of this gem. They have found their way into cathedral treasures of Europe, evidently by loot or trade at the period of the Crusades, and are generally called emeralds. The most notable are the treasury of the Three Magi in the Great Dome or Cathedral of Cologne. Some of these gems are nearly 2 inches long. Pliny quotes from Juba the tradition that the topaz, chrysolite, derives its name from the island of Topazos in the Red Sea, the finest specimen having been brought thence by the procurator Philemon to Berenice, mother of Ptolemy II Philadelphus. This monarch is said to have had a statue of his wife Arsinoe made of the stone. If there be any foundation of this latter statement, the precious gift sent by Philemon must have been a mass of fluorspar or a similar mineral. More than 300 years after Pliny's time, Epiphanius, evidently repeating another version of this tradition, states that the topaz was set in the diadem of the Theban queen. Chrysolite, olivine, peridot, to exert its full power, is required to be set in gold, and worn in this way it dispels the terrors of the night. If, however, it were to be used as a protection from the wiles of evil spirits, the stone had to be pierced and strung on the hair of an ass and attached to the left arm. The figure of a falcon on a topaz helps to acquire the goodwill of kings, princes, and magnates. A vulture, if on a chrysolite, has the power to constrain demons and winds. It controls demons and prevents them from coming together in the place where the gem may be, and guards against their importunities. The demons obey the wearer. An ass, if represented on a chrysolite, gives power to prognosticate and predict the future. A man with his right hand raised aloft, if engraved on a chalcedony, gives success in lawsuits, renders the wearer healthy, gives him safety in travels, and preserves him from evil chances. The use of the topaz to cure dimness of vision is strongly recommended by St. Hildegard. To attain the desired end, the stone was placed in wine and left there for 3 days and 3 nights. When retiring to sleep, the patient should rub his eyes with the moistened topaz, so that the moisture lightly touched the eyeball. After the stone had been removed, the wine could be used for 5 days. A Roman physician of the 15th century was reputed to have wrought many wonderful cures of those stricken by the plague through touching plague sores with a topaz that had belonged to 2 popes, Clement VI and Gregory II. The fact that this particular topaz had been in the hands of 2 supreme pontiffs must have added much to the faith reposed in its curative powers, and this faith may really have helped to hasten their recovery. I'd recommend Peridot, Protection Against Nightmares 3, Topaz, Courage 4, Leadership 4, Pride 4, Strength 4, Controlling Wild Beasts 5. I'd also point out the Isle of Serpents in the Red Sea, the Topazos, sounds terribly similar to Socotra, which is an Isle of Serpents in the Red Sea. Chrysoprase. Wonderful things are told of the virtue of the chrysoprase, for Volnar states that if a thief is sentenced to be hanged or beheaded, and he should place the stone in his mouth, he would immediately escape from his executioners. Although we're not informed in what way this fortunate result was obtained, it seems likely that the stone was believed to make the thief invisible, and thus possessed a virtue often attributed to the opal. A strange story regarding a magic stone reputed to have been worn by Alexander the Great is related by Albertus Magnus. According to this recital, Alexander in his battles wore a prase in his girdle. On his return from his Indian campaign, wishing one day to bathe in the Euphrates, he laid aside his girdle, and a serpent bit off the stone, and then dropped it into the river. A bull engraved on a prase is said to give aid against evil spells, and to procure the favour of magistrates. I'd note that some Mercurae, particularly those in the Alps, have magic items called lickstones, and a lickstone is a small metal plate that attaches to the roof of the mouth. This means that if the magician is taken and their hands are bound or their possessions are removed, it is unlikely that this final powerful magic item will be removed from them. Could it be that the stories told of the chrysoprase are actually stories of escaping redcaps using lickstones, which are often gold or opal, to make themselves invisible or cast 7-league stride? Coral. To still tempests and traverse broad rivers in safety was the privilege of one who bore red or white coral with him. This also staunched the flow of blood from wounds, cured madness, gave wisdom, and was said to have been experimentally proved. Coral, which for 20 centuries or more was considered a precious stone, to retain its power as an amulet must not have been worked. In Italy, only such pieces are valued for this purpose as have been freshly gathered from the sea, or have been cast up by the sea upon the shore. To exercise power against spells or enchantments, coral must be worn where its brilliant colour makes it conspicuous. If, however, it should be accidentally broken, the separate pieces have no virtue and the magic power ceases, as if the spirit dwelling in the coral flees the abode. The peasant women are careful to guard the corals they wear for a special purpose from the eyes of their husbands, for the substance is believed to grow pale at certain seasons, regaining its pristine hue after a short interval of time. Indeed, the women believe that the coral shares their indisposition with them. All this serves to show a kind of vital force is believed to animate from the material, gaining or losing vigour according to certain conditions, and finally disappearing when the form is broken. In Ars Magica 5th edition, red coral has a bonus of 10 against demons. I'd also suggest Travel 4, Staunching Wounds 4, and Fertility Magic 7.